Yes, Michelle, we are still here in Pretoria where civil society organization and advocacy group are really, expressing their disappointment in the current existing laws which are meant or supposed to be dealing with the issues of gender-based violence. Earlier on, we spoke about several voices who have come out to really participate and show solidarity to this particular movement. And of course, I did mention that there are some political voices that are also here just to really, also pay their or to also contribute in terms of emphasizing and ensure that this message gets across. We're yet to see any government officials coming through to receive or to really be part of this. But there is Busa, one of the leaders of Busa, Mr. Hlazo, Ms. Hlazo, who's here as a politician, ma'am, and you are dealing with a sketch of gender-based violence. One of the things that has come out of these particular protests is the issue of legislation not being enough. There is a conversation about, the publication of the sexual offenders list. What is your take on that? But also, how important is that in the context of why you are here today?
As Build One South Africa, we've been at the forefront of that call to make the National Register for Sex Offenders public. The reality is that you have to look at the number of issues that sit within the system when it comes to gender-based violence. And so part of that, first of all, is making sure that we don't have the repeat offenses and cases that we have in South Africa. In South Africa, 9 out of 10 offenders actually repeat. And you'd be able to curb that with making the National Register for Sex Offenders public. Because when someone is able to then make sure that somebody who comes into their home, into their workplace, a coach for your children, your GP for your child has not violated before, you then are able to better protect. And so we have been calling for over 2 years now for that National Register of Sex Offenders to be made public. It is important because it deals with one aspect of the issue of gender-based violence and femicide in our country.
Politically, when it comes to elections during the campaigns, we don't hear much issues of gender-based violence being championed by political parties. Do you think parties as yourself also have failed to really take gender-based violence seriously politically in terms of a campaign, in terms of manifestos, not just talking about gender-based violence in between elections, but actually even during elections? Maybe that will add to the creation of sufficient awareness about this problem.
Absolutely. I think we need stronger political voices. I think we need stronger political pressure, and that's why we're here. That's why we do all the work that we do when it comes to gender-based violence and femicide as a party. We need to put pressure even in Parliament. I'm a member of Parliament, and we're putting pressure on issues of ensuring that we have specialized courts. We have specialized training as well in law enforcement when you come into a police station, to make sure that you have the resources there, but also the training to deal with cases of gender-based violence and femicide and even child abuse. Because you find that only 7% of cases are actually reported, and part of that is because there's a failure in the system and because people actually don't have the kind of trust that you need in the system. We have just seen what has happened with the Omotoso case. We also need to put pressure to be able to resource the system better. The NPA, for instance, needs to be resourced better. That is a call that we've made as Build One South Africa to say, let us resource the NPA better so that you can deal with these cases and make sure that justice is served. When you have a system that fails people lose faith in the system.
Young women here and the activists and the organizers are seemingly very disappointed with politicians. One would say, why should you trust your sincerity of your presence here? If politicians have failed us in terms of legislation, they're saying that there's lack of implementation. So one would say, why should we be having politicians in organizations or in gatherings such as this one? What will be your response to that?
I always say that nobody's coming to save us and the power is in our hand. So what is happening here today, first of all, is a show of people who understand their power. But secondly, it's to say that that power needs to translate to who you actually support politically. It needs to translate to where you participate politically, participate in a space that takes your issues seriously. This is an issue that needs to be taken seriously. And I'd say that how you gauge whether an organization, a political party, a politician takes the issue seriously is consistency. How consistent are they in fighting for the issue? How consistent are they with the power that they've been given and that they have in fighting for that issue. And South Africans need to take back that power and be able to hold their politicians accountable for issues like this.
Ms. Webster, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's Nobuntu Webster there, Musa, and she's also the Member of Parliament, just giving us some insights in terms of where are the gaps really when it comes to the legislation, but also some activists have been saying that, well, we are not short, Michelle, of legislation and policies that are supposed to be dealing with gender-based violence. The problem is with implementation, and of course, that's what these young women and men who have come out here are really calling for. So we are expecting that maybe in the next 10 or 15 minutes, we are expecting them really to hand over that memorandum. But as I said, that we have not seen any sight of any government officials who might be the one who will be accepting that memorandum on behalf of government. So that's where we are at this point.